Hello. I want to shed light on something that we all possess in the form of traits. These are three traits which are essentially judgment, discernment, and awareness. Every one of us possesses these traits, and what I want to discuss today is what the subtle differences between the three are and how you can utilize all three for your evolution and growth. Now, judgment is usually the word out of these three words that carries the most judgment. And I want to talk about how you can even use that to evolve and grow yourself. Now, the term judgment, when you take away the negative connotation of the word, what it is, in effect, is your ability to take information, synthesize the information, and evaluate the information. Now, what makes judgment different than discernment? Because discernment is also about taking information and sifting and sorting through the information. So the difference between judgment and discernment is the focus of the two. Judgment is externally placed or externally focused, whereas discernment is internally focused or internally placed. I'll get to awareness as part of this discussion, but for right now, I want to focus on judgment and discernment. Now, judgment has this connotation of us paying attention to something that somebody is doing, whether that is an individual or a group of people, and then we actually look at the situation and decide whether that agrees with our philosophies of life or not, and then put a label of whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, positive or negative. So, a judgment always happens in the polarities of our existence. How is this different than discernment? Discernment is the process of taking information and looking at the information and working out whether it applies to you and how it applies to you. So let's say you have a practice of meditation, and it's something that you keep up in your life to keep your sanity, to keep you grounded, to stay in touch with your spirituality, whatever your reasons for practicing meditation are. Now, discernment is you understanding how meditation benefits you, and therefore you choosing meditation in order to get the benefits of it in your life. Judgment is you taking meditation and pushing it down somebody's throat because you believe that if they don't meditate, they could be hurting themselves and that they should be meditating, which means you're overlaying your priorities, your values in life onto another person. And so it has this characteristic of you imposing your values on them. And so when you cross the boundary of yourself and extend an action or an evaluation to somebody else, that is a judgment. Now, there is also a form of judgment where we look at ourselves and judge ourselves. And we judge ourselves by, looking at standards that other people might have set for us in our life. An example of this might look like, you might be meditating because your parents were also meditating, or you might go to church because your parents showed you at a very young age that going to church was important for your growth. So when you take on somebody else's values, there's a judgment involved in taking on that. Now, later on, when you come back and say, I am, judging myself for going to church all these years without really looking at whether it benefited me, that is a judgment on self. So it is self-directed judgment at that point. Okay, it's judgment of self. So judgment has a quality of coming back inside, but most of the time, it's judgment of another person's standard of living or life, you might say. Awareness is the tool that we can use to navigate our own judgment and also our desire for discernment or our need to discern in situations. So awareness is a tool of applying conscious information and knowledge to a situation or circumstance in our lives. So an example of this might be that you are in a party, and as you are in the party, you're looking at several people floating in and out of the rooms, and you're noticing everybody, and you might get to a point where you realize that something is different, and you might observe it and absorb that information and put it away. That might be, this person looks like they might need some help. I'm just giving a random example. They look like they're really tired. They look pretty drawn, and they look like they could do with a little sit down. And they're still talking and trying to be social. So that is an example of you just becoming aware of another person, or you becoming aware within yourself. I'm feeling tired and I'm still talking. Maybe it's time for me to sit down. Similarly, when you expand your awareness, you will notice other pieces of information coming into your awareness. So awareness is for you to increase your sensitivity and reception to information that is around you, okay? So that you can take the information and synthesize the information to discern for yourself. Okay, sometimes you also have to discern for other people, especially if they are in a difficult situation. Let's say you're seeing a woman cross the room that you are partying in, and she is standing very close to the edge of the door. You are aware that she has not seen the dip from the step of the door to the outside, to the patio. Therefore, you are aware that she might actually fall down. So you're going to extend your internal awareness to create awareness for her so that she can be safe. So awareness is about you taking information, synthesizing it, and using the information in a way that is going to serve, let's say, in this example. Sometimes awareness may be just you taking information in and not reacting to it, but just observing the information until you can come to some sort of a clean conclusion about where you want to go. So awareness is about recognition. It's about increasing receptivity and sensory perception of information. Judgment is about taking information and reaching conclusions, and most of the time the conclusions are outward directed. My thinking on judgment is that it can also be something that we can help people with sometimes. It's not all negative, but most of the time it does seem to have a negative connotation. And then when you think about discernment, it's really about using the wisdom from your experiences to really discern whether a choice may be right for you or right for your loved ones, and without imposing it, bringing it forward for them to look at. Okay? So this is a difference. Now, how can you use these constructs to actually grow yourself? Now, all of these are basically going to help with self-reflection, okay? So when you notice you are judging somebody else for having a different standard or set of values than you, your job is to actually look at your own filters, because you don't control somebody else's filters in life. So you're going to look at, what is it that I'm judging about this person? Is it the tone of their voice? Is it the tone of their email? Is it the expressions on their face? So you're going to get more aware of what you are judging, so that you can use the information you get from that to expand your horizons and expand your perspectives on, let's say, changing that dynamic between you and them through your self-awareness, through your self-reflection. Then discernment is about you taking the information. So let's say you're really grabbing that this person is upset and pissed off. This might be your boss. You might be thinking, oh my God, my boss is really upset and pissed off right now. And I'm very aware that there's something going on in his world. And now would not be the right time for me to approach him with the question I had for him, or to ask for that salary increase. That is discernment, because you have now applied a higher level of thinking and acting in order to benefit the situation. Okay? So discernment is you recognizing that there is a higher order that can be had in the situation, and you striving for that higher order. Judgment is usually about a very momentary reactionary response to somebody, rather than a responsive attitude to a sensory perception. So awareness is a tool you're going to use to navigate judgment as well as discernment. And it is, all of these have their place in life. I'm not in the camp that you should stop judging anything. I don't think in this lifetime we are always going to judge things. We are always going to have a need to judge things, because that's how we grow. That's how we learn. Now, the difference is, are you doing it more consciously or unconsciously? If you're doing it more consciously, you're going to pull back from your own reaction, step aside, give yourself the benefit of time and self-reflection to process your judgment, and come full circle with your own judgment. Discernment is about you taking that step of not judging brashly, but rather absorbing the information that you have received about yourself and or another person, and then responding to that information in a conscious way. Now, when we can do this with attention and awareness to who we are being and how we are being, then we can start to shift the way that we show up in our life, in our connections, in our romantic relationships, in our professional relationships, and we can start to truly be present to others in the capacity of being a neutral person, a neutral mindset, so that we receive the information, and instead of being reactionary, we take the time to process and act according to our greater knowing, our intuition and our higher thinking, our insight and our wisdom guiding us along the way. Have a good day.